Hey, my loves, it's your girl, Karen Tappan, CEO and founder of Karen's Body Beautiful, a line of hair, body, and bath products for the whole family. Welcome to the July episode of The Afterglow. I hope you enjoyed the beauty bubble that just played, because now we're live, in the flesh, and looking forward to your tweets. Back on the couch with me are Lovey Daniel Favors, Esquire, founder of Breaking the Cycle Consulting and Afro State of Mind Media. Natasha Gaspard, founder and executive producer of Main Moves TV, and Sakeenah Nzingha Kinard, brand manager and artistic director of New Day Enterprises. Hello, ladies.
Hello.
You just watched us go into the topic of cultural appropriation in the beauty bubble, and we want to hear what you think. Did you agree or disagree with what was discussed? Call us at 800-628-2210 or tweet us at Karen Says Show. Cultural appropriation.
That was fun.
That was
Interesting. There's so many topics bouncing around, from hip hop artists wearing fronts and big gold chains and door knockers and a whole lot of stuff that I didn't even do back in the 90s and the day. How do we feel about that? Like, is that a problem?
I mean, people want to express themselves, so let them express themselves. You know, door knockers are a signature of hip hop culture, and hip hop culture has expanded globally. So let them do what they're going to do.
Okay. I've been thinking about this since the initial conversation. It's just been sort of playing in my head, like, because I thought that we really touched on some areas that we don't often really go into when it comes to natural hair discussions and discussions of cultural appropriation. But it reminds me of when you reference specifically hip hop, like I'm thinking Kendrick Lamar and what was the Macklemore. Thinking about a computer. But just, you know, and going to your point, like they're going to take the work, they're going to appropriate it, misappropriate it, and we're not going to get the credit, which is why we need to be creating these spaces where we credit ourselves for our own. And I think that's a really good example. Like Kendrick Lamar losing out on, what was it, the Grammy, whatever. I'm not even going to pretend to remember what exact award show it was, but it being a big deal that the best rapper award was given to someone who is not anywhere close to representative of the community. And I think that principle still applies there. Like, until we validate ourselves for ourselves, we are going to continue to seek value from people who only see that, you know, what they can steal from us and appropriate for themselves.
When we talk about credit, what does that mean? How can others give us credit for our cultural elements? How does that work?
Well, it's not about other people giving us credit. It's about us accrediting ourselves and establishing what a standard is and what our heritage is and where these any form of art, where it actually comes from. And if we don't accredit it ourselves and take pride in what we're doing and teach our history to each other and to everyone else to establish it, it's like, you know, making your own Wikipedia. It's like, who are you? Let's make our own, you know, document our own heritage to define what is, so that it's clearly stated for everybody to see.
And how do we do that? I mean, we got the BET Awards that just happened. Okay, well, what else we got?
Not even owned by.
It's not
anymore.
Exactly.
I don't know.
Right.
But so you're saying
we have the beauty bubble, and Karen said
we have the beauty bubble.
Yes, we have the
but that
beauty
doesn't
bubble.
mean that it's going to stop anybody from trying to take that, right?
Right.
So I guess we don't have control over what other people do, but we do have control over what we do.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
even though they won't give us credit, I guess like you said, we won't have so many outbursts and get angry and everything because we already know. You know what I'm saying? We already know that this is ours. And once you know something, nobody can take it away from you.
Well, it's really to expand once we know and then expand upon it as if it is important for everyone to know. And just how, you know, the education of the natural hair care industry has expanded via beauty blogs. And, you know, now we've gained global attention. So now we just have to keep going and go in a direction towards a cultural aesthetic or acknowledging the cultural heritage behind the styles that we're doing.
I think this only matters for people who don't value who they are. Like, this conversation doesn't make any sense if you are a part of a cultural group that's got your own institutions, funding your own stuff, taking care of your own needs, feeding your own people, transporting your own people, medicating your own people, servicing your own people. For those communities, the part of the privilege of being self-sufficient is not minding when other people sample what you have, because you're self-sufficient. You don't need validation. You ain't looking for, you ain't thinking about what them people doing. And I think part of our issue really is that we don't value something until white people say it's okay to value it. And it's classic, the white man's ice is colder. So as soon as white people say it's valuable, well, they said it's valuable, but they didn't say we were the ones who did it. It's like I live in a gentrifying neighborhood right now, a neighborhood where my husband and I bought a house over 10 years ago. We tried to recruit hard to get other young Black people, professional couples to buy. We ain't buying in that neighborhood. You live in the hood. Admittedly, the block was hot. I'm not gonna lie about that. Like, it was a rough block, but now you can't get a house on our block for under $1 million. And everyone who has bought over the past year, a white family, the whole, like right now, there are more white people on my block than there are Black people. And now Black people are trying to get back into Bed-Stuy, into these neighborhoods, now that white people have placed a value on it and bring with them the attending increase in services that they're going to receive because of it. But they're self-sufficient. They don't care if we bite from them because they don't need us. We care because we don't value it until they tell us that we can. That's slave mentality.
And they've told us that they've discriminated against us, you know, and they've told us how to present ourselves in the world. So we value what they say. And it's you know, it's a part of post-slave syndrome. You know, post-traumatic slave disorder. It's a part of that. But how do we break out of that? We have to set a value for what is ours. And once we set the value for it and really establish it and grow it, then it doesn't matter what they say. And then we can start teaching them about what is valuable. You know?
So post-traumatic slave syndrome, is that an actual, not actual,
Dr. Joy Leary, girl.
Well, now Dr. Joy DeGruy, she's had a name change.
That's right.
She has had a name change. If you have not read any book this year, you must read Post-Traumatic Slave Syndrome by Dr. Joy DeGruy. Go to her website, posttraumaticslavesyndrome.com. The woman is brilliant. She's a professor, what is it, University of Portland State University?
She explains why we are the way we are from front to end.
Do you have a solution on how to get past it?
I think she does in her book.
She does.
I haven't read her book in years. I haven't read her book. But
she talks a lot about the healing spaces that Black, and I think we talked about this before, like how like some of our Jewish friends, they go to Hebrew schools, like after school, then they go to Hebrew school where they learn about their history, their language, their culture. So their entire existence from K through 12 is, I'm not just going to be a smart student. I'm going to be a smart student who's also learning how to be a good Jew, because my community needs me to be not just smart, but a smart Jew, so that I can help perpetuate the betterment of my community. And what she talks about is creating institutions, the schools, the after schools, creating the spaces where we control the thought, we control the discussion and conversation.
This is what you do. This is exactly what you do. In your other life, outside of the beauty bubble.
Our nonprofit, Sankofa Community Empowerment, but really being intentional about creating our version of all of the institutions that we have, which is difficult. People always say, well, you need money to do that. We don't have no money. And I'm like, Black people spend almost $1 trillion every year on legal money. That ain't counting Dutchess and all the stuff underground.
That's what I'm suggesting needs to happen for the beauty industry. You know, like in terms of the growth of the natural hair care industry, where are we going next? We need our own accreditation system, you know, in terms of who is going to say that these style techniques are valid. You know?
Where is that now in the state of New York? What's going on with the natural hair license? Is there a license?
There definitely is a license. My mother actually wrote the language for the natural hair care license.
Wait, I'm sorry. Say that again, please. She wrote the legislative language?
Yes, she wrote the legislative language for the natural hair care license. It passed in 1992. But the issue is that there aren't many curriculums honoring it. So, I mean, you can go to your local communities college to learn, you know, like Medgar Evers College. And, you know, there are some, No, you would obtain your natural hair care license through barbering school, but they're not really teaching, you know, braiding on an escalated level. In barbering school. You're learning how to cut hair, you know. So there are actual academies popping up all over the country, and there's actually like turmoil going on right now in the South, in Texas. Did you hear about that with the stylist Isis Brantley? And she did an honorable thing, you know, of breaking the system all the way down, and she won her Supreme Court case to really dismantle the legislation around the licensing of natural hair care stylists having to go to barbering school to not learn what they do. You know, she actually has a school that focuses on ancestral braiding, of what she calls ancestral braiding. But, you know, but the next step towards that, because what she has done is totally eliminated the licensing for natural hair care in that state. So there are, you know, mixed feelings about that, because you do want to license. She has eliminated the licensing for the braiding practices.
And because why?
Because they were telling us that we had to go to barbering school, which doesn't teach those techniques. So it doesn't make sense. But at the same time, now who is going to accredit these schools?
So they threw the baby out with the bathwater.
Yeah, they threw the baby out with the bathwater. So now the next step is we really need an accreditation commission of our own, you know, and that kind of, I mean, some people may not agree to that, because that's kind of reinventing the wheel of sorts, but I think it does need to be reinvented towards a cultural aesthetic. I'm saying multicultural beauty or Pan-African beauty as a term or as a descriptive of this industry, of what we do.
I was going to ask you about that. Multicultural. What does that mean? Because when I hear the word multicultural, I'm thinking literally whites and blacks and Asians and Spanish people and a melting pot.
Yes. It does mean that, and I use it in terms of describing the multiple cultures of the African diaspora. Because a lot of times people like to say Africa and think that it's a country instead of a continent, and really acknowledge that there are how many countries in Africa, and then in each section there are how many tribes in each country, you know, and everybody has techniques and history and heritage in terms of how they care for their hair. And then not just honing in on Africa, but in terms of, when I say the African diaspora, that's all Black people all over the world that have curly, coily, and kinky hair textures, that taking care of their hair with natural techniques. When you say natural, you're talking about not using a chemical, and you're going to start braiding, you're going to start twisting, you're going to start locking. And these style techniques come from indigenous cultural practices. So we really need to highlight the heritage. You know, we can talk about South Americans, we can talk about, you know, Mediterraneans, we can talk about everybody. But so that's why I say multicultural beauty, but I'm starting to say Pan-African beauty, you know, because I mean, it's a bit of a step and a bit of a stretch, and, you know, being bold, but why
I think
not?
you have to be bold. I think if people hear multicultural, they're going to think what I just said.
But then you're going to have to educate them.
Right.
But I mean, I'm not necessarily negating, because there's Native American practices of braiding, there's Mexican practices of braiding, there's Polynesian practices of braiding. Now, there are melanated people all over the world. There are melanated people in all of those parts of the world. So that would speak to them being a part of the Pan-African diaspora too. You know, so, but when you say Pan-African, you're really acknowledging that, you know, this is about melanated people and people, but you can just say people with a curl texture or with a curly, coily, or kinky hair texture of that degree.
Oh, we have to take a break.
Yeah, we have to take a break. So stop right there.
Okay.
So we're going to take a break, take a look at our sponsors. We'll be right back. You're watching the Karen Says Talk Show, Beauty Bubble version.
Yay. Yay.
Yay.
Between cultural appropriation and cultural exchange is always going to be blurred. I mean, the line between cultural appropriation and cultural exchange is always going to be blurred, but here's the thing. Appropriation occurs when a style leads to racist generalizations or stereotypes where it originated, but is deemed as high fashion, cool, or funny when the privileged take it for themselves. Appropriation occurs when the appropriator is not aware of the deep significance of the culture that they are partaking in. Hip-hop stems from a Black struggle. It stems from jazz and blues, styles of music which African Americans created to retain humanity in the face of adversity, which itself stems from songs used during slavery to communicate and survive. On a smaller scale, but in a similar vein, braids and cornrows are not merely stylistic. They're necessary in order to keep Black hair neat. So I've been seeing this question a lot on social media, and I think it's really relevant. What would America be like if we loved Black people as much as we love Black culture? I mean, the line between cultural appropriation and cultural exchange is always going to be blurred, but here's the thing. Appropriation occurs when a style leads to racist generalizations or stereotypes where it originated, but is deemed as high fashion, cool, or funny when the privileged take it for themselves. Appropriation occurs when the appropriator is not aware of the deep significance of the culture that they are partaking in. Hip-hop stems from a Black struggle. It stems from jazz and blues, styles of music which African Americans created to retain humanity in the face of adversity, which itself stems from songs used during slavery to communicate and survive. On a smaller scale, but in a similar vein, braids and cornrows are not merely stylistic. They're necessary in order to keep Black hair neat. So I've been seeing this question a lot on social media, and I think it's really relevant. What would America be like if we loved Black people as much as we love Black culture?
What would happen if the world cared about or loved Black people as much as they love Black culture? There'd be peace in the Middle East. Child mortality rates would go down. I don't know, everything.
We'd have a real justice system.
Well, what if Black people loved Black people as much as other people love Black culture?
That's the point.
We would have our own justice system.
Exactly.
Damn the racist laws that we're currently operating
Exactly.
under. We would create our own. We would do what you were talking about, creating our own.
We would have our own everything.
Yes. Yeah, I loved her video though.
I love that. Black people loving Black people. And that's the point. So
That's the first thing.
That's the
because we
first
forget,
part.
we say we're
Everybody
taught
else.
to hate ourselves, but that means that we literally do not know how to demonstrate love on a cultural wide, personal, interpersonal basis, which is why we always fighting, always ready to turn up, always. And Joy DeGruy talks about that, always having ever present anger as some of the symptoms of post-traumatic slave syndrome. People who descended from slavery based on race, who endure multiple generations of oppression that is ongoing, they experience ever-present anger, always ready to fight. You stepped on my shoe, get your hand out my pocket, whatever it is. Vacant esteem, like I don't even have low self-esteem about myself, but I see no value in any of you or anyone who looks like me. And there was a third one. I can't remember what the third characteristic is, but it literally characterizes the very angry, perpetual state we always seem to find ourselves in culturally. It's really good.
There were how many dozens of shootings in Chicago this weekend?
Like 50 something.
I just had to say that out loud.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Like
What is
Yes.
going on? Okay. In the meantime, let's briefly talk about popular blogger Lovey calling out Black beauty bloggers on Twitter for not speaking up about the recent terrorist attacks on Black churches. Does she have a point?
Yes.
That's the whole thing about Black people loving Black people now.
Right.
That's
So
right.
first of all, let's talk about what she did. What
Yeah.
she did, she called out just in general bloggers and I guess vloggers who didn't say anything
Black
about
beauty bloggers, not
Yes,
just bloggers.
Black.
Yeah, let's make that point.
yeah, Black folks who didn't say anything about Charleston, who are saying nothing that is politically relevant right now regarding the social injustice and the terrorism and the killings and all that. Like no one's saying anything according to Lovey.
Well,
I
the
wouldn't say no
main
one,
media
but yeah.
isn't really highlighting it, is it?
Well, they are, because
they
that's
did.
great
They're not
news.
wrong.
To see a bunch of Black people killing each other and shooting each other and looting and robbing, and of course, because they don't show white people doing it because they're doing it too.
Yeah.
So it's making the news. It's the top of the news.
But you know, it's interesting. Here we are being literally terrorized and like massacred in church, and no one cares. And then, oh, terror alerts going up because the 4th of July, and all of the news turns to these supposed threats when we have real life terrorists carrying out real life racist terrorism right now. And I thought Lovey was dead on the money.
I agree.
If people in our community who have access to resources don't use that access to lift up the rest of the community, what's the point? Like,
Right.
you know, and one of the things she said that I thought was really important was she talked about the fact that, you know, I know you have a brand, right? I know you've got people, sponsors, or what have you, but at a certain point, all of us, and I can't tell you how to deal with your slavery, you can't tell me how to deal with mine, so we all working it out on our own. But at a certain point, we really do have to begin asking, if we have a first Black X, or if we have a Black X, and they're not using X, the power that they get from having accomplished that to positively impact the rest of us, why do I care? Like, you got a good job, hooray for you. But if you're not going to use the power that you got from that platform to benefit the rest of our people, because ain't nobody else going to do it. You expect the mom and, you know, who's working, trying to keep food on the table, you expect her to come up with the master plan. I expect social architects to be thinking about that, not just art, you know.
So can I play devil's advocate for a second?
Yes.
So in my experience, and I'm not saying every blogger or vlogger, a lot of these women are passionate about hair or makeup or beauty. They are just regular lay people with a little bit of extra time and a video camera, and they want to get on their pedestal and say whatever they say. These are not professional activists. True. These are not people who wake up every day and they're like, oh my God, Bill Cosby admitted to what, you know. We're gonna talk about that. Bill Cosby admitted to drugging at least one woman. That's another conversation.
At least one.
At least one, right?
One.
One. So these are not necessarily women who are postured or poised or to do that. And maybe they are getting paid by brands, because brands do pay these bloggers. A lot of people don't realize that. Some people do. But maybe they feel like if I say anything, this brand might get upset, because there's brands who don't say anything, period. Brands I know of who are very paranoid about saying anything about anything.
But that's the tenets for Naturals for Change, right?
Naturals for Change. Can you
right.
tell us
That's
about
right.
Naturals for Change? Dr. Gaspar.
Well, I mean, I was going to say, I think, well, okay, so Naturals for Change is a platform that I created for, it's a social justice platform. So I've been in the natural hair community for years. And, you know, to your point, I thought to myself, you know, here we are, we're a bunch of powerful women. We have these huge platforms, people listening to the things that we have to say. We're creating our own content. We are changing a beauty standard, right?
Exactly.
So why not take it further? And why do we have to just talk about hair? Because basically, you know, our conversations are not just about hair. It's much deeper than that, as you can see. I mean, we have a whole talk show about it. So Naturals for Change, I really wanted to create that as a platform for us to talk about larger social issues that affect all of us. So with that said, I mean, I put a call out on Instagram and I got so much feedback from people. So I think that bloggers, social media influencers, I would like to think, I'm very optimistic that they have a conscience. And I feel like they come to this space because they have something to say. They have something to share, that there's a certain level of passion there. Obviously, there are some people that are doing it just for the money. And maybe some people don't know how to have that conversation because they've been doing, you know, the beauty thing for so long. Maybe it's like, okay, well, how do I even get into it? Or maybe I don't know enough about it to say something about it. But, you know, I just want to think about it on that level. But I do think that there is, you know, if you do have a platform, I believe you have a responsibility. I believe that. I don't believe that whole thing about.
You made it really easy to help people who maybe not. You're not a professional activist.
Yes.
Right.
You made, and that's one of the things I really loved about the entire campaign. I'm looking forward to like all of what's coming because it made it easy for people who don't have the ability to take the picture, marry it with the issue, get the text together. And it made it easy to repost. And even if you could do that, that's something. I think that's one of the things Lovey was speaking to. Like, she's like, retweet, something. like a picture. Like
I know, and I feel her because it's like when something like this is in the news and everybody's talking about it. And I'm looking at my timeline and you're talking about, oh, how to get this twist out. I'm like, next, like, come on, are you serious?
That's what I mean in terms of our next step is to really start acknowledging our cultural heritage because that's what that speaks to. If you really cared about your people, Black people, you would you would care about yourself as a Black person. And that's why I'm saying like the term natural, it has to go farther than that. You know, even if we say naturalista or something in that I mean, naturalista is more of a coined term to acknowledge like this is a I would say a Black woman,
Mhm.
you know, but that's what I mean in
Yeah.
terms of how we use the term natural to describe ourselves as Black women or Black people with kinky hair. It has to go a little bit farther,
Yeah.
you know, like we say it subliminally as a slang,
Yeah.
and everybody knows
Kinda
what it
gets you.
is.
Exactly.
We get it, but you know, as you are a quote unquote natural hair care blogger, it's your responsibility. Now you are pushing forward a platform to inspire your people, a whole culture of
I
people.
like that, like
you
having
know?
to push that beyond just hair. Like
Mhm.
that's important, because those of us who are dealing with natural hair, who've chosen that, are kind of putting ourselves on Front Street as confronting all of the negative standards and opinions people have about Blackness, right? Like we decide to wear our hair at this, and we kind of say to the world, all right, if you think negatively about Black hair, here's someone who's going to embody all of that. And I feel like that process and the process of learning to come to terms with your texture forces us to confront things that a lot of people in the community may, whether you went natural, again, like I said, because of a bad perm and a bald spot, or because you had a Back to Africa movement, like that that process causes us to confront and grapple with some things that gives us access to these conversations that many people in our community may not be having at the same level. So I think that the responsibility, so Afro state of mind, it's more than just hair. Like if we just stay at twist outs, our babies still die in the street, right? If we just stay at curlies, you know, and you use your apple cider vinegar rinse today, like if that's all we gonna do, then all right, then let's be that. Then let's not be upset when that's all we get, right?
Okay, so let's move on.
Okay.
I want to acknowledge Shantae, who is also known as @Posh Urbanite. I spoke to her earlier on Instagram, and yes, I told her she should tweet us, and so she did a few tweets. So now getting back to hair and cultural appropriation, she says, I don't think Black women use the term natural hair in a way it doesn't mean. That's one thing. She also says, I hope that natural hair continues to become embraced as a professional norm. We all would love that. And it's annoying that other cultures are credited with Black natural styles. Yeah.
We agree, but I loved what Sakeenah said. She was like, go ahead, they can do that. Go ahead, everybody, you know, wear it. Like
that just expands our market. That means that I'm selling to them. You know,
I'm still like, I guess this is my disempowered slavery. That's just how like they resist that freedom. But like that's such an empowered statement.
I think that black businesses need to come together, and we need to control our market, but that doesn't mean that our customers need to all stay Black. You understand? Like our customer base is going to be global, and that is what will continue to establish us and make us rise higher. You know, economically.
Joy DeGruy would say to make sure that we do that and not come together, create a business and a market plan and sell out, because as people descended most recently from slaves, we have that within us, right? Like that inability to totally focus in on us. She would suggest that as we come together, I think she would suggest that as we come together and create that commission that you talked about, where we're creating our own legislation and creating our own accreditation processes, that isn't just about hair either, and that those conversations, even at that organizing level, also incorporates the broader social ills that we're dealing with, because natural women are highly organized. Like we may be we may have our product junkie teams and tribes, but we get kids back in school when they get kicked out. We have schools changing policies when Black women start reporting, you know, did you hear about so-and-so daughter who got kicked out because of her hair? So even in our, let's just focus on apple cider vinegar recipes, we have some organizational power that if we do it, we can take the legislation your mother wrote and make sure that we extend it into employment protection, so that we don't have to hope we don't get fired. We can sue you behind when you fire us for wearing Black hair on a Black body. That's a different use of that type of power.
You're so smart.
Oh, stop it.
That law degree, girl. Making the most of them student loans.
Sally Mae and I have a relationship.
And so Shantae also says, great episode. Thank you, Shantae. We agree. The discussion was very balanced and not one-sided. I love that, she says. Okay.
Thank you.
So we have like 1 minute left. We need to talk about Bill Cosby. Please. So let me I've never seen the Cosby Show. I've never seen any of those shows.
Stop it. What? Stop it. The devil is a lie.
No. You know why? Because when I was growing up, we only had like Channel 7 and Channel 13. So I watched Jeopardy constantly, every day at 7 p.m.
That's why you know everything.
Jeopardy or Channel 13, PBS, that was it. So I never watched any of those. And then when I did get access to other channels, the Cosby Show and the other, what's the other one? Different World. They weren't in my repertoire of shows. So I never watched them.
It probably was dying off at that time anyway. It was time to get corny at the end. Not Different World. I love A Different World. Anyway, we digress.
But we digress.
30 seconds.
Yeah.
30 seconds. Right. So when I heard that he was allegedly, raping all these women, and then I know people in the industry who had been in the industry when he was doing his thing, and they were like, "Girl, we knew that."
Damn.
There was just no social media, so now y'all know.
Wow.
Now know because it's
Yeah.
But I knew he was guilty because can't that many women be wrong and lying?
Exactly.
And the guy that I spoke to who told me that he was working for agencies that worked for A-listers like him in that day, back in the day, 30 years ago.
Wow.
So anyway, according to the Huffington Post,
Yes.
the Huffington Post says Bill Cosby admitted to drugging women in 2005 deposition. Told you so.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate.
We're not
Very
shocked.
unfortunate.
We're not
I can't believe his lawyers ain't have a gag order on that. How you gonna let's see?
Come on, Esquire.
I'm not going to defend Bill Cosby. I'm just saying, like, from a legal perspective, like, it just, if you know that's in a deposition, you do a whole lot more to protect your client. But since I no longer work for the man or the devil, that ain't my concern. So, yeah.
In 2005, wasn't that long ago. It wasn't like the deposition came out in 1982. And I don't know. I'm sure. I know gag orders existed.
Media frenzy over him and these women that came out, and then now it comes out. Like, I'm confused.
But then it was like the Huffington Post said
something else to make us more emotional about something else to talk about and why. Bye.
Yeah.
Bye, Bill.
Yeah.
Bill.
And then his TV wife, what was her name?
Oh, Felicia Rashad.
Yeah. Didn't she?
No, she made a statement when they cut the Cosby Show because they cut her check.
Right.
That's when she made a statement.
Yeah, she was pissed. She was like, "Oh hell no!"
Oh, well,
when they stopped doing the reruns of the show and the royalty of them.
And what she said that
she stood up for him. She was like, he would never.
Keisha Knight Pulliam, whatever her name is. Yeah.
She was like, Sally Mae coming for her too.
Child, enough of that. I have a few, before we wrap, I have a piece of information.
Yes, ma'am.
What you got?
It's somebody's birthday.
Ooh,
We love her.
This is a wonderful way to spend my afternoon.
Yes.
Forever.
Are you doing anything special with the Hubsy?
We spent a week at the beach. We came back and spent the weekend at festival with family, and we spent the day at Spa Castle.
Ooh.
Oh, excuse me.
So I'm actually gonna go home and go to sleep.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I'm lying, baby. I'm coming. Go home, spend some time with my boo boo, and wrap it on in and call. And then we have to get ready for his birthday because his birthday's in 2 weeks.
Child number 3.
Wow.
All right.
That's the name. I rebuke it. Get not today.
And look at your snapback, girl.
Yes.
Just go ahead.
I'm still breastfeeding though. That's like 800 calories
what,
a day
when
just
it
off of
stops,
that.
what?
Like, I mean, when she hits 2, I'm done, and then hopefully I'll get my black girl body back.
She's so adorable.
She is, and she's so smart.
Thank you.
So that day you had me running around behind her. I was like, look at this smart little
I'm
munchkin.
so glad you were there. I gave a speech at an event, and my daughter was there, and
Your 2-year-old daughter.
Yes. This was the first event where we learned she is no longer going to sit still and be quiet like she did when she was in the baby wrap. And so Karen was there. I was like, Karen, get my baby. It's like literally that was the only way I could finish the speech because she took me and helped out. So
Right, but her baby wouldn't sit still. It's not like watch the baby right here.
No, you
I
got your
literally
exercise.
was walking around and chasing her around the room and out the room, and
Yeah.
it was fun though.
Yeah. She had fun. She had a blast.
Yeah, my uterus started throbbing. I was like,
you need another one. There you go.
hot, one and
People
done.
be like, bless you with 3. I'm like, no. Let me give you some of this juju.
No, one and done.
Yeah, I feel it.
Oh, my husband's back there.
She's got community family. That's what we told us too. You got community siblings. Before Neil, he's like, you don't need any brothers and sisters. You have community. That's why we create intentional community, so mommy and daddy don't have to.
Exactly. Where's my daughter? She's
Knocked out.
because every 3 months she's like begging me for a little sister.
Oh yeah.
She'll be all right though.
She'll be all right.
She'll be all right. She has 2 big grown ass brothers.
There you go.
She'll be all right. All right, let's wrap it up.
Yay.
I want to thank you for tuning in. Thank you to our guest host, Sakeenah Nzingha Kinard. Thank you for spending time with us and sharing her thoughts. Make sure you tune in next week, live, Monday at 7 p.m. And as always, I want to mention the woman. I want to shout her out, Natasha Gaspard, who makes this all possible. Thank you, my girl. She's the founder and executive producer of Main Moves TV. You have to check her out. If you enjoyed tonight's show, please tell a friend. Give this video a thumbs up, comment, and share. I'll see you next week when we have Cassidy Blackwell. founder and editor-in-chief of Natural Selection blog. We'll be talking about diet and exercise and healthy hair care, so make sure you tune in and tell a friend who could use the information. See you next week.
Bye.
Bye.
Yes? No? It's not stopping.
It's alive.